podcast is brought to you by Schema Business School.
Hi everyone. To keep the timing right, we shall start at 9. So you see, we're in France, but on time. It can be. So I'm very pleased to present you Victor. He's a teacher in Strathclyde University. And he actually just flew from the US, as he was in a Google session, so maybe he will talk a bit about it. But we are very pleased to have Victor with us. And warm welcome for Victor.
Thank you very much. I will not be able to talk too much about what I have seen at Google because I had to sign a paper that I will not talk about it. But I will try to give you some hints, okay? What I would like you to do for the start is keep this picture on your mind during my talk, okay? Because for me, this is the ultimate teaching learning experience. So, Socrates with his disciples on the Agora. You will see that what I want to talk to you about is about the passionate learners. These are the learners we are facing today. And the first thing is that we started to talk about lifelong learning a few years ago. Was lifelong learning invented in the last couple of decades? Come on, go back to this picture. There was always lifelong learning, so it is nothing new. Okay. So, there was always lifelong learning. It is nothing new. When Socrates was with his disciples on the Agora, they were talking. His disciples were not novices. It was not people who just started their learning process. It was very often very well-educated individuals. And if you just think about Socrates himself, he was learning all his life together with those people he was teaching. He always proud himself of doing the same thing what his mother was doing. So his mother was a midwife, you know. And that he is doing the same thing with knowledge, what his mother was doing with the living body. So there is nothing really new about this. That type of teaching learning process that they had was called the master-apprentice relationship. I will occasionally refer to my master. Remember, it is the master-apprentice relationship, not some sort of slavery. So in this kind of master-apprentice relationship, the master was also learning during all his life. So it was not reduced to some sort of beginners coming to listen to the teacher type of learning. And what Polanyi says is that this is the only known way of transferring tacit knowledge. We try to build all sorts of expert systems and so on. I'm also a chief developer of an expert system myself. We cannot deal with tacit knowledge in that, okay? The only way how the transfer of tacit knowledge can happen is in this kind of master-apprentice relationship. So has anything changed? Is the learning working differently these days? If I would wake up my great-grandfather to come in and see us at the university or at this conference, he would recognize that. It looks the same as it was looking before. Maybe we are at some kind of turning point about learning. But this was expected many, many times before. Since the 1920, when the first film was introduced, they expected from each and every technological development that it will change the way we learn. Has it changed? Well, not so much. If some changes happen thanks to the internet and what we today somewhat call e-learning, will we lose something? Maybe we will. But it will be not because of e-learning. It can be for some completely different reasons. How about technology? Can we lose something because of technology? Some of you have seen me arrive last night to the dinner. I was arriving through the window from the balcony of the restaurant in dirt to my neck. I'm now very happy that this happened. Last night I was not so happy about this. But it is the perfect metaphor of what the technology can do for us. The taxi driver had a GPS which showed him the location of the restaurant, but it did not show where you can enter the restaurant. So he showed me how to enter, and that's what resulted in me being in bad need for cleanup. So there are very serious limitations of the technology. This is one of those technologies that I am actually allowed to talk about and show. I don't know if you see really, but that's the Google Glass. It is a fantastic tool, certainly, and I can imagine incredible uses of it. For example, just imagine a surgeon operating and during the process needs some help, and what I'm doing there is just tapping on the glass to call someone on Hangout and gets consultancy from another surgeon how to deal with a particularly difficult procedure and so on. But it also raises incredible ethical questions. So the technology is never good or bad. It is what we make of it. And that will apply to e-learning as well. Socrates said that the education is not about filling the vessel. It is about kindling the flame. Don't forget, I hate when someone talks about education as providing information. That is a very, very small part of it. There is much more to learning and to teaching than providing information. And forget these models about how data becomes information, information becomes knowledge, knowledge becomes wisdom, and so on. It is not that simple. Data might become information, information might become knowledge, just it is not necessarily happening, and knowledge that does not necessarily come from information. What is very important in this message, so that's the vessel filling part of Socrates' message. But there is another important issue in this sentence, and it is that it is the kindling of the fire. It does not include lighting the fire. Okay? You cannot make your students learn. It is up to them. So you need a person who already has the fire so that you have something to maintain. And what we face today is the switch or transformation of our learners. That's what Nick Carr calls the shallows. They learn differently. It is from depth to breadth. So deep knowledge is not exactly anymore what they are looking for. It doesn't mean that there is no need for deep knowledge. But remember, the shallows is not about having a kitchen sink which is shallow. It is about having an ocean which is shallow. So it is not unlearned people. It is not ignorant people. It is just that the structure of knowledge is different. They are looking for wide knowledge instead of deep knowledge. Of course, in order to teach them, some of those teachers will need deep knowledge as well. What is interesting about this is that what they are looking at, when I have shared my photo driving a Ferrari on Facebook, it was much, much more popular, so it received more of these likes and shares than I ever received for any of the beautiful quotations or meaningful teaching pieces that I have put on Facebook. And that's part of it. And we can see, for example, if you track these posts, you can see that it is maybe thousands of people who looked at something very smart, so they are interested in it, they might even accept it. For example, this, what I added to Socrates' quote, that it does not include lighting the fire. Many might like it, but will they take it on themselves to share it with others? That's not that easy. It is easy to share a photo of Victor driving the Ferrari because it is a cool picture. And it is much more difficult to share a deep, meaningful sentence from, for example, Nassim Nicholas Taleb. Now, what I also want to talk about is, you will hear that I will say many, many, many negative terms. You know why? When you talk about something new, you always need negative terminology because you need to explain what it is not. And I'm trying to do something like that. So, what are VLEs, the virtual learning environments? That's a prototype of what is not e-learning. VLE will not prevent you do e-learning, but it will not make e-learning happen at all. Why is that the case? The problem is that we use the VLEs this way. Okay? So we have a technology which would be for transportation, and we do use it for transportation, just not the way how it could be or was meant to be used. If you look into, for example, MBA education, look at the Wharton Business School, for example, they are pretty well positioned in MBAs. And if you look at the online version, it costs about 50% more. That has an important message. It cannot be done otherwise. Okay? It has to cost more. What we do with VLEs, it is an administration-friendly solution. Our administrators love it. Why? It is very easy to take attendance. We have this term, Tier 4 visa students. We need to prove to all sorts of border agency, and I don't know what they are really attending the classes. Nothing easier, go to Moodle, just take the attendance list, and it is all there. Many, many things can happen automatically. Oh, we suggested some more automatic solutions which were not supported. For example, we could just have a camera recording the picture of the students' face recognition, would put them whether they are present or not, or a simpler version that we can put on a quad barcode somewhere. They just scan it with their mobile devices, and that's their attendance and so on. But even if you do it sort of a traditional way, so a TA goes around with a tablet and ticks who are present, even in that case, it is all automated, it is all processed, it is working quite well. But how we changed the teaching learning process using the VLEs? Did we? I have been looking at many, many VLE setups. What usually happens is that the teachers are uploading their slides, usually in PDF, so that nobody can steal the pictures, and I don't know what they put in. And that's it. There is no change in the teaching learning process. It is a very, very, very expensive way of delivering PDFs. There are many, many simpler things that can do that. But what else is happening? Nothing. The whole structure of the course is still the same. It is still a linear content. It is sequential. The concepts are building one upon the next and so on. So, what are we else doing about this? So, do we really, first of all, know anything of the values? So, what kind of values this can add to our teaching learning process? Many people will say, no, we don't know the value of these things, but we know very well the price. Do we? Actually, you cannot make use of your VLEs properly exactly because you have no idea about the price. If you want to use the same content, it will not give you anything but the same process as before. Sure, some of it will be computerized, so what? It is not a change. If you still have those very long texts, you can record your presentation on audio, on video, you can transcribe these and so on. We have been experimenting quite a lot with various video setups, for example. One very important learning point was that the quality of the video recording does not matter. As long as it is good enough that you can actually watch it, and as long as the audio is good enough that you can understand the text, whether it is recorded on an iPhone or if it is recorded in a studio with 17 HD cameras and I don't know what, it does not matter to the students. The first thing that I have done with that is that we recorded the research philosophy course. That was like 3-hour long, very, very dense lectures. we have recorded those and put it out on a VLE. What do you think was the outcome? Did the students find it useful? Those who did not attend the class, yes, of course, they were able to watch it. There were some students whose English was very bad. They have also found it very useful because they could watch it 17 times. But how about the others? They have found it completely useless. Why? Because it is a 3-hour-long video. What they needed is what we did in the second round. We made it searchable. They are not interested in re-watching the whole lecture. They remember something and they don't remember quite exactly how it was said or what was said about it. So they want to find those 2 minutes in the presentation, in the video, and that was very useful when we did that. This year, we have implemented a new like super VLE navigated class, which means that I have 1,700 students in that class. It is distributed over 3 years, and about 500-600 students in 1 year are doing the same thing. But they were previously coming to the sessions by 50, so groups of 50 students, and each of these groups had a teacher. There was a very small kind of mini lecture, about 20 minutes, at the beginning of the session, and after that the students were working in groups of 6, 7, and they were doing all sorts of team projects and so on. Now, what I did with that class is that I removed these online mini lectures, these face-to-face mini lectures. Why? Well, the first hint was that there was, for example, a topic on creativity, and obviously, if it is 500-600 students, it is, and in groups of 50, it is 10 to 12 teachers delivering exactly the same. Well, you can imagine how much exactly the same that could be between 10 to 12 people. And there was a guy from accounting who said that in his line of job, you go to jail for creativity. He does not feel comfortable talking about creativity, and he was really bad at it as well. So what I managed to do is taking out these from the sessions completely and delivering it online before the students come to the group sessions. I was able to get the best teachers of the business school to do exactly that one topic that they are best at. So I have raised the quality of the lectures. When I first tried that with some smaller videos, what do you think the ratio was of students watching the videos before coming to the session? Under 10%. Under 10%. Why? Why would they be watching it? Come on. And I really put in so much effort to make it work on phone, iPhone, non-iPhone, iPad, non-iPad, every kind of device and so on. Why? Hopefully, while they are coming to the university on the bus, they will be watching it. They did not. What they needed? An incentive. So when I have recorded these new videos, it was always twice 15 minutes delivered by the same lecturer, and that person did the first video. Then the students had a couple of questions that they had to answer online, marked automatically and that kind of things. This does not go in their marks, okay? It is not evaluating the level of knowledge, it is just checking that they have really watched the video. And after that they watch the second video, they get a task to do a preparation for something that they will need to use in their group sessions. Now that works very, very well. The preparation rate is 98, 99%. Everyone does it. Of course, some very neat things that you can do in these VLEs that I have used conditional activities, so they cannot proceed unless they did the previous one. So even if they miss a class, they need to go back to the previous one in order to do the next one. So basically, those couple of students who do not do it are those who are leaving the university. Otherwise, everyone does it. So these kind of things can be done. Is this e-learning? It is not. If I am really, really polite, I might say that it is some sort of blended learning because a bit of it is happening online. But there is nothing really different from having a really good teacher in the classroom to deliver those small talks. Okay, how about the next step? What are the next? Oh yes, almost forgot. It is right that the interactivity is in the mind. You need those people to be interactive. You need the students to be willing and able to engage. But of course, you do need the technology. It will not work otherwise. So you need that mouse, only it will not make it work. Now, some more negative thoughts. There are many, many misconceptions about e-learning. And I would like to talk about a few of these. The first is that the technology is not a solution, let alone the solution. It is an enabler. We should use it as an enabler. We should be able to do things we are not able to do without the technology. In the previous VLE example, I could not possibly get those best speakers to talk to each of the groups of 50 of the students. But recording them makes it possible to have it delivered. And it is something that we need to make use of, not to invent. But the whole learning process in universities is only a small part of the learning process that the students go through. Okay? And we need to be aware of that, and we need to use it. This is a diagram that I like very much because it explains some very, very essential things about our learning process. Do you have the Big Bang Theory here, the sitcom? Do you know about it? Now, are those guys knowledgeable? Certainly they are. Have you seen that part when Penny has a fancy dress party in her flat, and then Leonard and Sheldon are there, and there is also Penny's ex-boyfriend, who is dressed like Tarzan, and he is also pretty much built like Tarzan. And then Leonard tells Sheldon, you know, many, many millions of years ago, this guy, simply because of his size and his strength, would be entitled to his choice of female partners or male partners or animal partners or large primordial eggplants. But today, in the knowledge society, Sheldon, you and I are the alpha male. Why are you laughing? Because they are not. They are so obviously not the alpha male. What is missing? They are knowledgeable. Yes, they are. But they are what I call the knowledgeable incompetent. Learning does not give you competence. If you are good at it, learning can give you high level of knowledge. High level of knowledge is certainly necessary for competence, but it is far from being sufficient. It requires something else. When you say that someone is competent, what do you think about? It is a person who can take knowledgeable action in a particular situation, to simplify it a bit. It means that knowledge is only one of the three components which are in dynamic interaction. So it is knowledge, the knower, the person who knows, and the context in which the action is happening. And these three need to be in that kind of dynamic interrelationship that provides the competent action. That means that the universities can only deliver the learning part. If it is a good university, what will the graduate have? The graduate will have the web of relevant concepts. In the universities, what we can do with these concepts, we put them into intellectual context. What I'm saying is basically that we can get our students, if we are really good, to think using these concepts, to play around with these concepts. These are not applied concepts yet. And then they go, so that's this part of the diagram. And then they go and start the real life experience. And when they are working, when they are doing, for example, something like a corporate university, then these concepts that they acquired in the business school will be redeveloped in an applied context. This is the process that we call experiencing. Now, the passionate learner will switch between these all the time, going back and forth between the learning and the experiencing, and that will lead to competence. So we cannot miss either of these. Both are necessary for the development of a competent individual. And it is very good if the executives are coming back to the university. Just, you need to tell them, as my excellent colleague Robert Chia often says, that if you came here today to get solutions to your problems, you are in the wrong place. We will not help you solve your problems. But if you allow yourself to take the intellectual journey with us, when you go back to your companies, you will see those same problems in a different way, and you will try to solve them in a different way. So this is the essence, that you need to go back and forth between the learning and the experiencing process. And that also means that there are many who are a bit scared of the whole e-learning idea, especially with these informal learning and group-based learning kind of issues. And they say that the formal learning is dead. It is not. It cannot be. Why? Because you cannot redevelop the concepts in an applied context if they do not exist. Okay? What Louis Pasteur said about this is that the insight will only come to the prepared mind. What is the prepared mind? Or we can, Széchenyi from Hungary called it the cultivated mind. That's what we do in universities, to make the students have the prepared mind so that they can be really good in their applied context when they get there. There is a related concept to the prepared mind, and it is the open mind. Is the open mind good for learning? Well, it is certainly better than the closed one, because the closed one would mean that I am rejecting the new knowledge. But if I am open to it, it does not mean that it will stick, okay? That it will live in my mind. You cannot think about the open mind as a one-way street. It is more like a blind alley. So it can come in and leave again. I will never forget, as a student, I attended a session on quantum physics, and it was an excellent speaker. I understood everything he said. I was very open-minded. I received it, and I was really happy about that. I went back, and a friend of mine was asking, how was it? Oh, I said it was fantastic. So what was it about? It was, I have no idea. Why? Because I did not have any existing knowledge to stick it to. Okay? It could not work. I was very, very open-minded, both ways. It left my mind at the same fluency as it came in. The other big problem is that we started to overemphasize these small groups and so on. Actually, I still love lectures. Why? Because I like a full room and talk to a full room. But there are many who say the students should do it by themselves in small groups. And they are pushing for that really, really hard. And they are citing all sorts of evidences which have absolutely nothing to do with what is really there. For instance, there was an experiment in the States. They hired an actor to deliver talks in medical faculties of universities to first-year students, and his all medical knowledge consisted of one single Reader's Digest article. What was the outcome? The students said this was the best professor ever. He is so obviously incredibly knowledgeable, and so on. And the authors and those who conducted this experiment came to what I think is an incredibly good conclusion, that the students, first-year students at their level of knowledge, cannot really assess the knowledge level of their professors. And that's fine. It's not their job. But I have seen the reinterpretations of this study. That's horrible. I was taught that I should not be teaching. Actually, it was done in a lecture, which is a bit of a contradiction. But I was told that we should not be teaching. Why? Because we are not actors. We cannot achieve that kind of delivery. And then I told them, actually, I am an actor. Oops. Then, okay, you can teach. See how stupid you are. I am not an actor. I am just a teacher. So you cannot do everything with students in small groups. I had a colleague who started to cry when we were told that we should do everything like that. She says, I cannot get the students to find out how to solve differential equation by themselves. No, you cannot. You need to help them to achieve the prepared mind level, and then they can do something about it by themselves. So forget about universities disappearing. Forget about formal teaching disappearing. I really hope that it will change, but not to everything in small groups version. There are many problems associated with e-learning. Some of these are about problems that e-learning might help addressing, and some of these are problems that the e-learning is raising. I think that the main problem that we had in education is that far too many people are learning in ways that does not suit them. It is not according to their availability. It is not according to their existing knowledge, because the existing knowledge makes it possible that you actually receive that new knowledge that is delivered. Just think about my quantum physics learning example. And it is not their learning style, and so on, so on, so on. What they have, it is everyone is learning exactly the same way, because this is how we deliver it. And don't misunderstand me, it is not the critique of lecturing. It is the critique of any type of teaching learning that you do, because you do it to all your students. You cannot deliver it in completely different ways to those students who would have preference for different learning styles. Now, there is something that can be helped, I think, in terms of e-learning. What is also incredibly important is that the learning is a personal choice. And you cannot make anyone learn if they don't want to. What you can do is that you can try to awake their enthusiasm for the particular thing that you want to teach, and then, if they choose, they will learn. But it is up to them. You cannot do anything about that. And how they will make these choices? Just think about what you remember from your university years. The guys will remember the most beautiful girls. The girls will remember the most handsome guys. And all of us will remember the strangest teachers. And roughly that's it. Maybe the best parties. But that's all we remember. Why this is important? Because each and every one of these things are emotional. It is not about knowledge, it is about emotions. Knowledge itself is incredibly emotional. The students' relationship towards their teachers is incredibly emotional. It means that you also need to open up, make yourself accessible to them, and actually, yes, you need to develop emotional relationship with your students. If they fall in love not with you, but with your subject, with your class, with whatever you are doing, that's when they will be learning. And it will be their own choice. So, it is partly about the content. What kind of content they are choosing? Something that they are already emotional about. Something that they find very, very interesting, intriguing. If I would like to teach my business school students SQL, no chance. I can be the most exciting teacher in the world. They would not care about it. It does not fit into this first part. They don't care about the content emotionally or knowledge-wise. And of course, it has to be a teacher that can change their world. And that's what you really need to aim at. Otherwise, it does not work. You are changing the world of these people. And when you receive that kind of messages from your students, that's the most beautiful feeling that you can have. Probably the best evaluation that I ever got was a very short email from a student, because I always told them that I want to achieve that they think. They don't need to agree with me, they don't need to accept anything I say, but I want them to think about it. And the short email was, "You achieved your goal. I am thinking. It is hard." Well, he never tried it before. What is also incredibly important, that the e-learning or whatever we do about it does not change what is a mediocre teacher and what is an excellent teacher. And don't believe the studies that say, and there are quite a few these days, that they compared an excellent teacher with a mediocre teacher delivering the same teaching material. And although, yes, the students liked the excellent teacher more, they did not learn more from them. How they check that? What they have learned from them. Well, very simple. How we check what the students learned? Exams. So they looked at whether those with excellent teachers performed better on the exams or not, and the outcome was that they did not. Come on, be serious. You don't seriously think that an exam is assessing what the students have learned. It has nothing to do with that. Not nothing, but very little to do with that. It would be so beautiful if we could completely abandon the whole idea of assessment. Why? Because I am not an instructor. I'm not there to prepare them, to train them how to provide a successful examination. I want them to think, how on earth will you measure that? Many, many years ago, I was teaching business information systems to information science students in their 5th year. It was an integrated master's degree. In the 5th year I came in. You can imagine, they all know much more about information systems than I do. So first of all, I had to pass all sorts of exams with them because they were testing me whether I can answer their technical questions. And what happened afterwards? They hated my class. They hated it. I was not teaching anything about databases. I was not teaching any kind of technical new tricks and so on. And that's what they were really interested about. But 2 years after the class, 2 of the students came back and they told me that we just wanted to apologize because we really, really had a bad opinion of your class and we hated it. I said, I know. And what we wanted to say that this was actually the most useful thing we ever had at the university. Because it was about that kind of context in which they had to think. Of course, not everyone came back, but it is just showing you the incredible flaws of evaluation. Why are we doing these exams and assessments and so on? It is to satisfy the administration. It is not. Students will not learn better because of the exams. They try to replicate something so that they get those papers saying that they graduated this and that. It also means that the whole teaching is not following what they are interested in. I like to say that if a teacher can be substituted with a machine, then they should be. Then they have no business of doing it. Okay? That was originally from Arthur C. Clarke. And it does not mean that when you, for example, video record a lecture, that it will not make a difference to how the teacher is perceived. It actually makes a huge difference. You know what is one of the very, very strong parameters of the technology, using technology in anywhere? If we can talk about ERP systems in organizations or computerized support for the teaching learning process or whatever. The technology makes things transparent, at least more transparent than without it. And if you have a funny person who is a really bad teacher, they can very often get away with it in a classroom because of how they manage the time and so on. But if it is on video, it will be much, much more obvious whether it is a good teacher or not. So this picture is about a different type of how teaching can be developed. I am working currently on developing the first MOOC of the Strathclyde Business School, and this is the concept map of the MOOC. So there are 4 themes, three concepts about each theme. These are delivered in the form of small 8-minute long videos. Of course, to get to these 8-minute long videos, it is so much research needed by me as well as by others to pay attention to the attention span of the students and all sorts of other parameters. So after that, I give them something that I like to call a trigger concept. And the trigger concept is to switch their thinking. I hope to have all brilliant presenters for those small videos, and it is in their closest research area, so they will talk about where the field is at the moment. Now, what I want to achieve with the trigger concept, that after that the students go out and find out about something that is not part of the discipline yet, the upcoming new knowledge. Something that you can already see in a TED talk, or if you are in the area of business, then, for example, the Tinker's 50-page and similar places, but it did not become part of the normal material of that field yet. So that would be the idea of what is delivered. Is it different in any ways from the normal teaching learning process? Well, not in itself, although this looks a bit different than the sequential order, isn't it? So let's see what we try to do with these MOOCs. You know about FutureLearn? That's a MOOC platform, which is the first one in the UK, and it is basically by the Open University. And I like to talk about it as a second-generation MOOC platform. The reason that I call it second generation is that we had all the experience from edX and the other Coursera and so on, and we can avoid some of the mistakes already. They also promise that it will be pure HTML5. For the non-technicals, it means that it should be working everywhere. So that's a different approach to learning, very different from anything before, but is it different in terms of the learning teaching process? The first thing that you need to know about MOOCs is that it is provider-driven platform. It is very strange. The university does not hold the primary branding of the MOOC courses. You are not signing up for Strathclyde. You are signing up for FutureLearn. And within that, you take a course from Strathclyde. So the secondary branding is only coming from the university. That's something very different. And it demonstrates also the power of the platform provider, which is incredibly important. So universities in the UK are fighting to get into FutureLearn. And we were also very happy and proud to get in. So why is that important that the platform is driven by the provider? There was an internet conference a couple of weeks ago where the guy I think he also had about 45 minutes, and he spent 25 minutes of this at his computer dragging the user interface across various devices. So see how this is what it looks like on a computer screen. Then if you put it on a TV big screen, this is what it looks like. See, it keeps all the ratio. The buttons are located differently. And then if you drag it over to a smartphone or a tablet and so on. Don't misunderstand me. This is incredibly important. It exactly has to work this way. The question is why you should spend 25 minutes on showing it. But this is also what FutureLearn did for us in a technical presentation, just they were much faster in demonstrating. That's fantastic, and that is necessary. Why? Because you have no idea what kind of device the students want to use for the delivery. And you need to make it possible to work in every device without anyone having to adjust, okay, so let's see if it will be on a mobile phone, let's put this button here and so on. You don't want to do that for every class. The system has to do that. Now, the other important thing is how the course design is working. In many ways, what is standardized and how is reversed from the times of the VLEs. And I find that incredibly important. What was in the VLEs, the teacher was completely free about the content structure. Do you know what I do with this VLE that we are preparing for Future Learn? The 8-minute video, the first slide has to be about a contradiction. Then you have these 8 minutes to resolve that contradiction. So you raise the contradiction, you need to make it the way that you get common ground with the students. Then you need to demonstrate what is the barrier that you need to jump over in order to achieve a solution. You have to have a personal example included in those 8 minutes. You have to tell 2 jokes. All of it has to be through storytelling. The third part of the presentation is, and so on, so on. That is how prescriptive it is, okay? You were completely free in your VLEs. What happened? Those PDFs uploaded that I talked about before. And now we can get back why the Wharton online MBA is 50% more expensive than the non-online version. Because from this you can understand that, yes, you can have the expert in the field who can deliver that content, but it has nothing to do with taking out your existing slides and working from them. You need to completely redo the content. It needs to be a different structure. It needs to be a different mode of connection between those concepts that you are delivering and so on. This is not to say that I am completely happy with it yet. Why? Because there is one thing that we are not allowed to do, and I think that it is essential for starting to talk about e-learning. I am here paraphrasing Jack Welch and John Chalmers. They said something that the internet is the most important invention since the steam engine or something like that. If the MOOC, if the e-learning works as we imagine it working, then it can be the most important invention in terms of the teaching learning since printing. But we are not quite there yet. Okay, so we still do not have e-learning. And one of the important missing parts is this third part, that it has to be a learner-driven outcome. Have you read any statistics about MOOC courses? X 100,000 learners started, and what happened? 90% did not finish. They failed. No, they did not. They did not go there in the first place to obtain the certificate. Why they did go there? What I said about the passionate learners. Because there was something they were curious about. There was something they were emotional about. So they come to my course because there is one concept they are interested in. They learn about that one concept, and they leave because they are not interested in the rest. We need to learn to cope with it. The first step would be that the content delivery cannot be sequential, and that's why this is very important that I showed here. This is non-sequential. Of course, you cannot build it just in any arbitrary way. There are some which I would call probably allowed paths and non-allowed paths, but it is not sequential. And we are still forced. They said that the first time you are running it, it has to be sequential. We will see. We plan to loosen up on that a bit. I hope they will, because that is necessary for going towards e-learning. What if a student comes there, gets 1 or 2 concepts in this course, 1 or 2 concepts in that course, and so on? Did they learn? They possibly learned quite a lot. Do they get a certificate? No, because they did not pass the assigned sequential structure, they did not pass their exams, they did not do, I don't know, the full content of a particular course and so on. Forget it. Adapt to it. If we don't learn how to adapt, we can lose all the certification idea from the whole learning process. We need to figure out how to give the students a certificate that they have completed a set of concepts that no one else ever did and maybe no one else ever will again. That's that flexibility, that's that adaptability to the learning process what the learners need. That's how we can make use of the MOOCs, really. Will they do that? I don't know. I will show you a picture now, which is what I think beyond what we think about the MOOCs today. I call it a hybrid learning platform. So I'm not going to go through that in detail because, or can I have the whole day? No? Yes, it was a joke. So, yes. So, I did not mean to cover this. There is only one thing that I wanted to call your attention to. There are all sorts of things plugged in this hybrid platform. Will the MOOC become one of these components the same way as the VLEs are? Or will the MOOCs manage to evolve that they become all of this? That's the question in where the e-learning is going. And the final thing that I wanted to say is that the whole concept of e-learning will very soon disappear. 5 years from now, I believe that we will not be talking. This is probably one of the last conferences on e-learning. Why? Because no one will call it e-learning. It will simply be called learning, because that's how we do it. Thank you very much.